It's been quite a week for me, and one of the reasons why I'm coming on to tell you all of this is in hopes that maybe I could help somebody. You know, when you're going through something and knowing you're not going through it alone makes a world of a difference. As you've seen in my title, it's not a fancy title to try to bring traffic or people to my video. It literally is exactly what this video is about. When things happen in your life and it brings you to your knees, literally to your knees, you have to stop and take a pause. Before I share with you exactly what took place, let me share with you the backdrop, just a little bit. When you live with anxiety, it's chronic. You have anxiety your whole life. But there's ways you can cope with that. And sometimes you have periods of years where you don't have any anxiety. And then all of a sudden it can creep up on you. And you can conquer it for a long time, and then all of a sudden it creeps up on you again. But I know the reason for my anxiety because I allowed it to happen in my life. And let me share with you why. There was two areas in my life that I really struggled with. And I worried about them and I stressed over it. Constantly stressing over it. Now, one of the areas I should never even given it a thought. It should be so away from my way of thinking, but it wasn't. One of the areas was something that was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous to allow it to infest in my heart. And it's one of those things that nobody can help you with. You have to learn to cope and conquer it on your own. The other stress in my life was one that was a reasonable stress. It was one that everybody would say, well, yeah, I would stress about that as well. But yet, once again, I allowed it to come into my life. So I knew that these stresses were bothering me, so to speak. My mother had a saying, and I never use these terms when I talk about things of stress and things of worry. But my mother would always say, her heart is burdened. And that is something I never used those terms, but wow, it's just the perfect way to say it. My heart is burdened. My heart was burdened over the last 2 months, over these two situations in my life that were kind of intertwined, but yet not. A burdened heart. I think we all have had burdened hearts in our lifetime. I think all of us have struggled with burdens that we bear. Yeah, I think we have. But how do some people cope with their burdens while other people just seem to be engulfed in these burdens of our life? And for me, I was engulfed in the burdens of my life. These two burdens. I'm not going to mention what they are because they're very private, and we don't need to mention them because we all have burdens. And for me, I obsessed over them. Every day, every night, I was thinking about these two areas of my life. What can I do? How can I do? What am I gonna do? All of these things. One thing about having videos a couple days ahead, that way I have a cushion because you just never know what a week will hold. And this week held some changes in me. And I hope that they are life changes because I had a wake-up call. I had a big wake-up call. So the panic attacks started again. And anybody who has dealt with panic attacks knows all about them. I could be an expert in the field of panic attacks, at least my panic attacks, because I know exactly how they come. I know exactly pretty much why they come. The only thing is, I haven't learned to totally conquer them yet. Oh, I've gotten there. I've gone many years without them, but how to conquer them is something that we still strive to do, because for me, the non-medicated way, it's the best way for me. So the panic attack came, and it came like a roaring lion, seeking who it may devour, and that is true. And I just calmed down, took a few breaths, and some of you, if you do have panic anxiety attacks, you may not want to watch this because it can trigger it. Even just talking about it for some people, it can trigger it. So the panic attacks went away, everything was great. And then I started not feeling so good, and it was just, I don't know how to explain it. I just felt off. I mean, my mom used that term, off, like it's just something doesn't feel quite right. And what happened to me in the middle of the night had nothing to do with my anxiety, but yet it was a life lesson for me. Well, the life lesson was this. So I went to bed really early because I was really tired, and I woke up at midnight with the experience I have never in my life experienced to this level. I woke up with extreme vertigo. Now, when I say extreme vertigo, I mean extreme vertigo. I couldn't walk. My life and my world was so dizzy that I couldn't hardly get out of bed. I held on tightly to everything around me to try to go to the bathroom. And I was so engulfed in what was happening to me. Like, am I dying? I really thought that this was it. It was just so extreme and just so violent. These vertigo attack. And I've had vertigo in the past. I have that, you know, where you gotta watch how you turn your head. But this was nothing like that. I went to the bathroom and I laid down and I just closed my eyes. And it's like the world was flashing, like just I couldn't settle. Well, then of course, on top of that, the panic was trying to come in because, you know, when you don't feel good and you're so dizzy, then of course your mind is reeling with panic thoughts, because that's what happens when you're a panic person. But what I realized was, I was crying out to God and I said, God, literally I was saying, God, please make it stop. Please make it stop. You know, the only thing I wanted that moment was for it to stop. You know, whatever had to happen to make it stop, because it was just the most unsettling feeling I have ever felt in my life. And in the moment of all of that, God spoke to me. And when I say God spoke to me, no, it's not some audio voice coming down from heaven, and it's not some, you know, thunderous voice, but God spoke to me and he said, you know what, for the first time in weeks, you're not stressing over those things that were so important to you, are you now, Teresa? And it was like, wow. And I realized, when it's all said and done, the things that we think matter so much in our life don't matter at all. I could have cared less about those two issues of my life. I could have cared less about any of it. It was so superficial. And after an hour of laying still, of course, then the vertigo went away, because it was transitional vertigo. You know, that is, vertigo is transitional. It's the kind where you sit up and then the kind where you lay down. So of course I felt better for a little bit. And I laid there and I was thinking about this. Oh my word, what a lesson I was taught in the midst of all that. And it was like, wow, God, you're right. You know, when it comes down to really what matters in life, those things made no difference to me at all. I was stressing my life away over one thing that was totally ridiculous. And everybody would say, Tessie, that was totally ridiculous. And you've told me that in the past when things bothered me in that nature. And the other thing was, really, does it really matter? Does it really matter? In the long scope of things, it was superficial as well. It really was. It was not life or death situation. It was something I was worrying about, which was a fleshly worry. But when it all said and done, it didn't matter to me. And so I lay there and I actually thank God. I said, thank you, Lord, for bringing this to my attention. You know, God speaks in subtle ways. And sometimes when you don't get God's attention, he will do other things. Now, I'm not going and saying the vertigo was caused by God. I'm not going to say that. But I do believe that God used that situation for me to teach me something. And so a couple hours later, I had to go to the bathroom again, and it was a little better. And I still am not 100% feeling the best, but I'm feeling a lot better. And so yes, it was probably a virus, but the virus taught me a lesson. And in life, we have a lot of burdens that we bear, but do we really need to bear all of these burdens, you know? And it's just a human thing. We all go through this. Some people's burdens may be really minute to other people. When I was going through the vertigo, that burden was no burden. That was no burden to me. So I made a promise to God, and I'm the kind of person that it takes a lot for me to make real big changes. But one thing I've always done is when I make a promise to God, I keep it. And I made a promise to God. And promises are meant to be kept. And especially if you make a promise to God, it's really important that you keep it. And I made a promise to God that I would work on the one stress in my area of my life, that one burden. And the other one, it's gone. I promised God that I will never allow that in my head again. I will never allow that. And you know what? I haven't. And by the posting of this video, it will be 4 days. It's gone. It is gone like day and night. It's like that whole burden has been lifted from me, and I'm so free of it. I am so free of it. I don't care about it anymore. And it's hard because when you have your life, your feelings, you're so empathic. It's very hard. The tears are tears of just such embarrassment that I would allow something like that to take a hold of my life. You know, I try. But in life, sometimes things can take a hold. And it was put upon me. And it was very unfair that it was put upon me. But it was up to me to accept it, and I did. I accepted that burden that was placed on me, and I shouldn't have. And God just said, it's not worth your health, Tessie. So if you're stressing about something, give it to God. And don't take it in. You know, there are stresses in life that we have to deal with, but then there are stresses in our life that we don't have to deal with. When things are placed upon you, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to enter it in your life. You don't have to put up with it. And it took a wake-up call for me to really realize that. And the burden has been lifted from me in a way that I would take that vertigo attack any day. I would take that any day to have this burden lifted, because I realize now that even though the vertigo attack had nothing to do with my burden, it taught me that when things happen in life, what burdens really are important and what burdens are just superficial things that you don't need in your life. And so I hope somehow I spoke to someone today. It takes a lot of courage to come on camera. It takes a lot of courage to open up your heart in ways that you know will be interpreted different ways by people. But you know what? In doing so, I have felt such an amazing release of just peace in my life. And you know, we all have valleys in our life. We all have mountaintops in our life. And through it all, we learn these things. And I'm so thankful that I have all of you to share with. You know, I'm at the point in my channel where I really want to share something with you. For years, I strived to grow my channel. For years, I strived to do everything I possibly could to make my channel thrive. And I beat myself up over it for years. And this had nothing to do with the burdens that I was bearing, but I wanted to share this part with you because I realized that right now in my channel, those who are watching my channel are the ones who really matter, because other people aren't watching my channel. And the ones that are watching it right now are the ones that I feel like I can minister to, or I can encourage, and I can motivate, and I can share my life with you all. And I think what I'm trying to say is it's the quality, not the quantity. And I don't have the quantity, but I got the quality. And that's how I want to be. And God always provides. He always provides. God is not early, God is not late. He's always right on time. And no matter what happens in our lives, God is always right on time when we need him the most. Thank you guys so much for watching and seeing my heart. And I hope that I helped somebody out today. And if not, it helped me. You know, it helped me just share with all of you what's going on in my life. And that's what friendships are all about. It's being intimate with one another. And I just choose to do it on the internet. Take care, everyone. We'll see you guys tomorrow.